Welcome back. So last time we finished our little rooster event here, and this time I want to start on the next map. But I think right before that I'm going to give these maps that we have already made a name. And so to do that I'm going to just right click on the ones that I want to change and go to edit. And then as we talked about in the earlier episode, we can just give them a name of the map here. And we could do a display name. It says name displayed on the upper left part of the screen when moving to the map, not displayed if left blank. So we could do that. And, where you could also just duplicate. I think I'll just use the same name for each one. So I want the starting area to be called campsite. And we'll go ahead and duplicate that over here. And all I did to do that was just right click and copy. And then right click and paste. But I did the keyboard shortcuts, Control C and Control V. So the starting area I want to be called campsite. The second map, we'll rename that the same way. What do I call it? Camp path or campsite path. I'll just do with a hyphen and call it the clearing because it's a clearing and a campsite path. Alright, that looks pretty good. So it'll show up exactly how you have it on here. So, and again, I just copied and pasted. And we'll see the display name. We'll see how that looks when we go back in there. And this is just for, clarification or whatever. So we don't get confused. Because when you just do the numbers, after a while, you kind of start to forget which one is which. So it's easier to give it some kind of name, even if you don't give it a display name. So it shows up in the game itself, at least the name, so you can remember as you're working on it. So I'm just going to hit paste again because it's still on the clipboard. Because all I want to change in this last part is this second part from clearing, and I'll just call it the woods. And then I'll hit OK. So, and then now we've got actual names for our little maps here. So going forward, I'll probably think of ones for each one. So our next map that I have in mind here, I'm just going to make it another small map. And there's going to be another transitioning kind of map here. And we'll make it be the outside tile again. This one, I'm going to call it campsite path. And it's going to be called the bridge. And then we can select it all. Control C to copy, Control V to paste over in the display name. And we'll hit OK. So now we've got our fourth map here. And this one is the one that I'm going to make that brings us over to the main road area from here. So I just wanted one more transition map. So we'll just go ahead and start to draw. And for this one, I want to show the river tiles a little bit. We didn't do too much of those. Or, it doesn't have to be a river. It could just be a pond or whatever. But the water tiles, basically. So there's a couple ways we can do these. Let's go ahead and start by just filling everything in with the grass for now. Go ahead and, whoops, that's the shadow pen. Got to switch tools. There's that. That's not what I wanted to do. So I'll undo that and hit the flood fill. There we go. That's what I was trying to do. Alright. So we got the flood fill going. Now what I want to do is add some water, and I want to make like a little creek or something here. So you could just use this auto tile one and drag it across here. And you can see it makes a nice little segue into the grass and everything, because this is the one with the grass surrounding the tile. And then we have one here for dirt. And that looks good if you've got some dirt going here. So we could just do it like this. Whoops. Let me go back to the grass one. So we could just do, something like this. It doesn't have to be straight, obviously. I'm going to change that, make it look a little nicer. But I think what I have in mind is I want to actually make a little ledge here for it to go into, and then, have the creek beneath that. So instead of actually using the grass one, I am going to want to use this dirt one here in this case for what I envision here. And you can, again, you can do this however you like for yours. Whoops, I did not mean to undo that. There we go. So that's just kind of like a basis. And then from there, we can kind of, make it a little more visually interesting. So it's not just completely square. Maybe something like, this, and it could even come down here a little ways. You can leave a little bit of space in here like we just did. I'll just kind of expand on that a little bit. And then it becomes sort of like an island area that's in here. And that can be kind of nice, especially if you fill it up with this dirt tile instead of the grass one. Then you get the impression of having, you know, a little bit of a island in the middle of the river. Maybe it's a little fork of the river or something, or creek, whatever you want this to be. So I'm just going to do something maybe a little bit like, you know, something like that. Just a little different. And then I actually do want to come in here with this and just kind of go right along the edge. Maybe I'll just say right about here. Probably looks good. And just instead of using the grass one, since we're using the dirt, you know, one for the auto tile, it's going to look a lot better with these dirt tiles right next to it. So even if you have to do something kind of like that, and there we go. Okay. So now, in addition to that, like I said, I wanted to use the sort of like a cliff sort of thing going on. So, and I'm going to do the manual ones here because we didn't really do much of that with, you know, up to this point. We haven't really done much with the manual ones. I showed a little bit in the original, you know, first couple episodes of the tutorials here, and but I just like dragged everything and just like, oh, you can do this, but we're actually going to draw an actual cliff this way. So I'm going to start with this one down here, so you're not going to really see too much, but you are going to need these top ones here. So since it goes off the screen, we don't really know where it goes. I'm just going to start with this one and just give the impression that there's, you know, a cliff going on here. And then when we reach these corner ones, we'll use these corner pieces here to kind of do this sort of thing. And then this one I could either do a corner and then have it keep going down here, or what the other thing you can do is just do the side one here and have it keep going straight across like that. So you'll notice here in this little area, they have these little, it looks like all the way grass tiles, but if you look close, there's a corner, there's a little tiny rock piece in the corner of each one. And that's to fill in these spots. You can see right here, there's like a little gap in the corner where it's just empty tile and it doesn't quite fill in all the way. But if you use these little rock pieces like that, then it does the little inside corner of the cliff. So we'll just put those in there. So anywhere when you have these, you know, corner pieces like this, you'll want to try to put in one of these as well to match it. So, all right. So now I think as far as this goes, I'm just going to probably fill in some side stuff. But again, I also want to do this here. And this is something I wanted to show because something I hadn't talked about, but with these cliff ones, the difference is here at the bottom, you can see a little bit, like it's kind of hard to tell, but if you look at the very left corner here, especially, you can see it. There's a little bit of grass on the bottom, so you can see it better if I do this. So just to show you as an example, so that blends in with the grass. You can see there's a little bit of grass growing at the foot of the cliff and, you know, at the corner of it, versus if we do this one over here with the dirt one, you can see in that bottom left corner there, you can see there's dirt, so it kind of matches the dirt. So you do want to distinguish between which one of those you're using, you know, depending on what your tiles look like down here. So for this one, I actually am going to use the dirt one, so it, you know, lines up with this dirt ground here. And maybe we'll do something like, I don't know, I don't want to make it too flat, but maybe we'll have it come out here a little bit, and then we can do something like that to show an extra layer. And then, but I'm not going to make this clip very tall is the thing. I want this clip to be pretty short, so maybe something like that looks good. Pull that back in, and then have this go back across. I just want to give the little impression here of just a little bit of cliff, and then maybe when we get to here, we can do the grass one and have it come back up a little too. And then one more to kind of round things out. I just want it to be, you know, just a short cliff, nothing big, but just enough to where there's like a drop, you know, in elevation here. Because whenever you have, you know, water, it's going to be at the lowest possible elevation that it can be. So, and I just wanted it to be just something a little different than just drawing the water in the, you know, in the dirt and then calling it good. So one way you can kind of, you know, vary things a little bit there is with these cliffs. So, okay, so we've got to fill in some of this, and we want to use these bottom ones here to fill in on the top. So anywhere we've got a corner piece, we want to use this, left corner for that, and then the right corner for here, and spot like here. And you can see it kind of shows the edge border to bridge between the two areas. So it takes a little bit of practice to figure out how exactly to use these, cliff pieces and things like that. But especially if you're doing it manually, versus the auto tile where it tends to do it all for you. But the main thing is you just don't want to forget to cover up your edges here, so then it looks nice and finished if you've got them all covered. And then again, here we have a situation where we're going to want to use these little tiny corner stone pieces, because you can see at the corner there it's just empty. It doesn't quite fit as good as it could, just like what we had down here. So now we're using these other ones, and it fills it in with that extra little rock. And we've got one right there. And we're going to need one more right about there. Okay, so just a little structure there. And actually, don't really like having that grass there. I thought it was going to look nicer, so we're going to have to fill that in with a little bit more dirt. And then I am actually going to replace this other piece with the dirt one, because we used the grass one in here. So, and you can see that if you look real close, you can see there's a little bit of grass on there if we leave it on there, versus if you do that, then it takes it away. So, so we want it to match. I think I did that one as grass too, didn't I? Yeah, I think so. I'm going to change that one to dirt. There we go. Okay, so now we should be good with the dirt at the bottom, and then we've got this little creek or river here. So that's more or less what I was going for, just to kind of give something interesting visually to, to break up the area.